Hello everyone, it's Layla from Indica's Exotics, and today I'm going to be doing a video on a bioactive enclosure build for my African fat-tailed gecko on this Zoo enclosure. First I started by painting the sides of the enclosure blue so that it would match the rest of the enclosure and so it would cover the foam that would be exposed on the sides. For the base of the background, I cut this purple insulation foam board. After I cut it to the size of the background, I started carving it the way I wanted it to look. To cut out bigger pieces of foam, I used a regular knife, and then for details I used an X-Acto knife, and then for the rest of it I used a piece of sandpaper. After I cut the details how I wanted it, I used this heat gun to tighten up the foam and make it look a lot neater in general. After I carved the piece of foam how I wanted to, I did a layer of dry lock. And then I did the second layer of dry lock and let it dry. After I finished the back and side panels, I siliconed them to the enclosure as well as filling any gaps with foam. Once the foam and silicone dried, I painted over any of the exposed parts with dry lock so that it would blend in with the rest of the background. Now that the base of the background is done, it's time to start doing the hardscape. I propped this piece of slate up with some cups and then I spray foamed it to the background. Once the foam that's on the piece of slate was dry, I started to add this log and I propped it up again and I spray foamed it to the background as well. I did the same thing with another branch, and I also started to silicone pieces of bark as well as my mushroom ledges that I sell on my Etsy to the background. Now that the background is done, you're going to want to seal the bottom of the enclosure with silicone so that none of the water can leak through. I also wanted to add that you can get your own piece of plexiglass cut to put as a substrate barrier so that it's extra tall like I did. It's 6 inches tall. Next, you're going to want to add your drainage layer. I did perlite and lava rocks because that's just what I had on hand. Next, you're going to want to get either mesh or landscaping fabric to use as a barrier between your drainage layer and substrate. Now it's time to start adding substrate. This is the recipe that I used. When adding substrate, you're going to want to add it to the corners of the enclosure as neatly as possible so that it doesn't fall into the drainage layer. I'm so sorry to disappoint, but my phone decided to die in the middle of me filming doing the actual enclosure process. And here's the final product of the enclosure. I'm so happy how it came out. And here's a little video of me misting down the enclosure since African fat-tailed geckos need very high humidity. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and make sure to subscribe. Bye!